welcome once again to Let's Talk Marriage. This is Pastor Larry coming to you this Wednesday afternoon with Let's Talk Marriage. All right. We're going to get right on into our session or program on today. How's everyone doing? I hope you are doing well. If you woke up this morning, you are doing well. All right. We're going to get right on to our session today. Our session today is the foundations of a great marriage. Now, we're talking about the foundation. So, in other words, the foundation has to start somewhere. And we've been talking about on the last couple of our sessions, we mentioned or we were discussing dating. Now, when you're dating someone, you have to make sure that they have good intentions. Know their intentions. Know what was their motives. What are they looking for in a relationship? Don't just go out with someone just because you think they might look good or something like that. Make sure you know their intentions. And just because someone is in a church does not mean that they have good intentions. Let me repeat that again. Just because you met someone that was in church does not, by all means, mean that they have good intentions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. Ask a lot of questions. Get to know the person. Because when you ask questions, that's how you know things. And when people are not being honest, you can usually tell if, especially if you've been there before, if you've been in a relationship where there was a lot of misguidings or a lot of things that weren't right in a relationship, you can usually pick that up. And also, the foundations of a great marriage. Also, we were mentioned so many times on the program to make sure that you close chapters before you move to different relationships or even before you get married. Make sure you seek some help especially if you were in an abusive relationship. You don't want to jump out of a abusive relationship into another relationship because that person that you uh, getting married to or in a relationship with now, they might be the perfect person, but because you did not close those chapters from a previous relationship, and you still have wounds and hurts from a previous relationship, they can be carried over into a new relationship. So you want to make sure that those things are closed. That's also the foundations of a great marriage. Again, there's nothing wrong with asking questions. Don't get or feel awkward when your parents ask a lot of questions because that's what their job is for. Their job is to ask a lot of questions and to cover the questions that you might not think to ask. Especially if you get caught up and start getting in your feelings and stuff, you're not going to think to ask certain questions. That's where your parents come in. That's why it's so important when you're interested in someone to make sure that your parents meet them. Again, make sure your parents meet them. And if they're a good judge of characters, they'll tell you whether that person is worth your time because life is so short. So you don't want to waste your time or your efforts on someone that's misleading you or taking you in the wrong direction. And you young ladies that are in church, make sure, again, like we mentioned before that just because you met someone in church does not mean that they have good intentions. So that's why you have to be, our young ladies have to be very, very careful on who they keep company with. And especially if you came out of a bad relationship, make sure that you settle all those things, get those things out of the way before you work on yourself. Make sure you forgive yourself, and so you'll be able to move on. in a new relationship, because you don't want to start another relationship and you still have another chapter that's still open. So make sure those things are done. Just because again now it's worth repeating. Just because the person's in church does not mean that they're the person for you. And let me say this: just because the person's not in church does not mean that they're for you. Because sometimes the Lord will take you in a path of someone that is not in church. They've been to church before, but they'll stop going for whatever reason, and it'll take your path and your being a witness first. That's why you have to get to know these people. That way you can be a witness, and if something comes out of that, it was meant to be. So make sure that you ask many questions. Get to know these people before you start. And these are foundations for a great marriage. Make sure that anyone that seem to be young ladies, anyone that seem to be interested in you, make sure you watch them around. When they take you around, make sure they take you around their parents as well, and see how they interact with their parents. If their parents ask you a lot of questions, then that means that they are on him. They've already asked him the same questions if they ask you a lot of questions. And don't now, by all means, don't feel awkward because they're asking questions. It might sound crazy, but there's a reasoning why parents ask a lot of questions. Again, they ask a lot of questions because sometimes when we're involved in a relationship, we might not think of certain things to ask. Again, it's worth repeating. So make sure that you're asking those questions, and make sure when you take them around your parents, when they bring you around their parents, see how they interact with their parents. See how if there's a father in the home, see how he reacts with his father. See what kind of relationship they have. And if it's a single parent, see how his relationship with the mother is, because for some reason, sometimes the worst enemy of a young man can be his mother. Let me say that again. It's worth repeating. Sometimes our young men's worst enemy can be their mother. First of all, let me explain that. Because who always call their grown man baby? You have no mamas. You have no business calling your grown son baby. That's your child. No, that's your son. So and they refuse to. It seems like they refuse to let them grow up. He get in trouble. Oh, he didn't do that, and he do something wrong. Oh, he couldn't have did that. He's a good boy. There you go again. Boy, he's not a boy. He's a man. So you have to make sure that you watch that relationship. If it's a single parent, watch how he interacts with his mother. If his mother treats him as if he's a young man and not a boy, then you know that he's going to be uh, a productive husband. He's going to be a husband that protects you. So you have to watch those things, how that goes in when you meet the young man parents. So it's very important, because a lot of times when you meet people, their parents are separated or divorced, and so you have to make sure you watch how they interact with each other. And the foundations of a great marriage. Nobody enters into a marriage thinking, I'm all right if this experience is just mediocre at best. Everyone wants a great marriage, but it doesn't just fall into our laps. That's why you have to ask those questions. That's why you have to make sure you are prepared. First of all, you have to make sure that you are ready to be married. You have to make sure you are marriage material. And what I mean by marriage material does not necessarily mean that, oh, you know how to cook and so on. That's good, all good, but that's not part of being marriage material. Knowing how to cook, sew, and clean and wash. All that should come natural. You should know how to cook something. Oh, come on. keep it real. Let's be real, people. You should know how to cook something, even if it's just one dish. You should know how to cook something. So being prepared for marriage is mentally being prepared. That's one of the major things in being prepared for marriage is being prepared mentally. Because a lot of people enter a relationship and they're not mentally prepared to be married. That's why a lot of marriages fail. That's why a lot of the divorce rate is so high because people are not mentally prepared to be in a marriage. You have to be mentally sound to be in a marriage. You have to know you have to have some goals set before you. You have to have your vision set before you in a marriage. You can't just walk in blind and don't know anything about the other person, marrying them right away. So stop getting too serious right away with people just because it seems right. A lot of times, you don't know when it seems right. When it is right, you'll know. But for the most part, you have to make sure that you know people before you walk down that aisle with them. And that is the foundation for a great marriage is to make sure that you know that person, make sure that you've closed all chapters in your previous relationship. Because you don't want to enter into a marriage and you got a lot of baggage. You don't want to bring that along with you. And, most of the times nowadays, especially as we get older, most marriages result in blended families. So make sure that your kids on both sides are respecting each other. You don't want them saying, "Oh, you bringing somebody us up," and you don't want kids to be talking like that. You have to teach them to respect whoever you're in a relationship with, and make sure that when you ask those questions, you'll know that. And one of the things we've always mentioned on the program also is make sure before you get into that relationship, the things are discussed. One of the major thing is, do we want to have children? When do we want to have children? Because it's so expensive nowadays, it should be planned. And if that's not in the plans, don't try to force the other party into, oh, I thought we was gonna have kids. Don't try to force people into having kids when they're not ready. And if that's discussed before you get into a marriage, that is part of a great foundation of a marriage where you discuss how many kids you want to have and when you want to have kids because they are expensive when you have children. First of all, you got to realize or wonder who's going to keep them while you're working. If one of you is going to stay at home and keep the kids, all that has to be taken in consideration. That's why we have to make those decisions, have that conversation before you walk down the aisle, and that is foundations to a great marriage. The foundation is the root of a marriage. If all that is taken care of, the marriage will grow. Because if you have for instance, if you plant a tree and you don't water it, you don't dig the roots deep enough, it's not going to grow. So you have to make sure those roots are deep in your marriage. You have to make sure that when you in your marriage, you make sure that you are working together and enjoying each other because God honors marriage, and it's not to be entered into lightly. You can enjoy each other, have the most fun that you can ever have, enjoying each other's company, and once you get to know someone, that's why it's so important to get to know them before you enter into that relationship. Don't enter a relationship where there's big surprise that's going to be coming up. Make sure that you know what you're doing or know the person that you're getting involved in. And again, we had mentioned that when you meet someone in the church does not necessarily mean that they have good intentions. And when you meet someone outside of the church, or if you meet someone outside of the church, does not mean that they have does not always mean that they have bad intentions. Because sometimes you meet someone outside of the church, they might have better intentions than someone you meet in the church. So you have to pray on things and constantly pray on things like that. When you meet someone, pray about it. Is this the right one? Talk to people that might have experienced things like that. Talk to people that been married for a long time. Find out how they met, when they met. If both of them were in church, if one of them was in church, one was out. If they both were out of church, and they got into church later. Make sure you ask those questions to someone that's been married for a while, and make sure that when you bring them over to meet your parents, or always make sure that they meet your parents, because they'll have the questions that you cannot think to ask. This is Pastor Larry. We're going to be signing off until we meet again with Let's Talk Marriage. Okay, I'm going to make a quick announcement about our services at New Zion Christian Center, located at 15014 South of Splain Street in Plainfield, Illinois. Our services this Sunday is going to begin a little earlier due to the scheduling at the community center that we're currently holding services at. Our services are going to begin at 9 a.m. I believe at 9 a.m. this coming Sunday. And after that, it'll go back to the regular 11 a.m. But 9 a.m. and we'll be out. Of course, we'll be out early. So make sure that you make plans to stop by and enjoy us. We would love to see you. And we've been having a great time, and we're looking forward in growing in the Lord. The Lord has so many good things in store for us. Make sure you make plans to come out. My phone number is listed on the website if you have any questions as far as the services go, and just stop by and let us know that you're supporting us. This is Pastor Larry. We're going to be signing off with Let's Talk Marriage. All right. Until we meet again, this is Pastor Larry with Let's Talk Marriage.